This is the naval arsenal of the Kriegsmarine. From the massive battleships of the Atlantic to the silent U-boat that stalked the deep, the catalog of every German naval vessel used in World War II. Let's begin with the capital ships, the titans of the surface fleet. Bismarck class, the monster, the largest battleships built by Germany, armed with 815 guns. The lead ship, Bismarck, became a legend by sinking the HMS Hood while her sister Tits threatened Arctic convoys simply by existing. Scharnhorst class, the ugly sisters, faster than battleships but heavily armored. They specialized in raiding commerce and were the only ships to sink a fleet carrier. The HMS Glorious, using only naval gunfire. Class, the pocket battleships designed to cheat naval treaties. Small enough to be cruisers, but armed with battleship-grade guns, they roamed the South Atlantic, hunting merchant ships before the war even fully began. SMS Schleswig-Holstein, the veteran, an obsolete battleship from World War I. It holds a dark distinction. It fired the very first shots of World War II, shelling the Polish garrison at Westerplatte on September 1, 1939. Moving on to the cruisers, the raiders of the fleet. Admiral Hip, the heavy scouts. The Prince Eugene is famous for surviving the entire war, escorting the Bismarck, and later participating in the Channel. She was truly the lucky ship of the fleet. EMDN class, the first major warship built in Germany after World War I, though largely used for training. She saw combat in the invasion of Norway. Kingsburg and Leipzig class, the fleet scouts, fast and armed with 150mm guns and unique offset rear turrets. They were effective raiders but suffered from weak structural integrity in rough seas. Auxiliary cruisers, the ghost ships, the pirates of the modern age, converted merchant ships flying false flags. The Atlantis sailed for 600 days without port, and the Corin achieved the impossible, sinking the Australian cruiser HMAS Sydney. Next, the Mosquito fleet destroyers and patrol boats, Type 1936A, the Narvik class, Germany's heavy destroyers. Unlike Allied ships, these carried massive 150mm guns, giving them the firepower of a light cruiser, though they were unstable in the heavy Atlantic waves. Torpedo boot, 1937, the coastal defense, smaller than destroyers. These sleek vessels were designed for height-and-run torpedo attacks in the North Sea. The Schnellboot or E-boat, the fastest vessels in the war, capable of 40 knots. These wooden-hulled attack boats terrorized British convoys in the English Channel under the cover of darkness. R-boot, the Romoid, the unsung workhorses, small minesweepers and patrol boats. They cleared the paths for the U-boat to leave harbor and fought skirmishes in shallow coastal waters. Moving to the Wolfpack, the submarines. Type 2 U-boat, the Einbaum or dugout canoe. Small coastal submarines used for training and early war patrols in the North Sea. Type 7 U-boat, the Workhorse, the most produced submarine in history. These formed the Wolfpacks that nearly strangled Britain's supply lines in the Atlantic. Type 9 U-boat, the Long-Range Hunter, larger and heavier, built for endurance. They sailed as far as the U.S. East Coast and the Caribbean to hunt tankers in Operation Drum. Type 14, the Milk Cow, a heavy supply submarine with no torpedoes, designed solely to carry fuel and resupply other U-boats at sea, extending their patrols by weeks. Type 21, the world's first true submarine. Advanced aerodynamics and massive batteries allowed it to sail faster underwater than on the surface, setting the standard for all modern subs. Next, the Desperate Measures, submarines to hand the seal. As the war turned, Germany built tiny Turmen vessels. They proved surprisingly effective in the shallow waters of the Scheldt estuary. By the Beaver, a one-man submarine armed with 2 torpedoes, it was notoriously dangerous to its own pilots due to carbon monoxide fumes in the cockpit. Nick, the manned torpedo, essentially a suicide weapon. Pilots sat in a cockpit carrier with a live torpedo slung underneath. Survival rates for these missions were incredibly low. Let's look at the support and specialized ships. Graf Zeppelin, the unfinished dream, Germany's only aircraft carrier. Though 85% complete, political infighting and resource shortages meant she never launched a single combat plane. Spare Brit, the Minebreaker, the toughest job in the Navy. Merchant ships with reinforced hulls filled with buoyant cargo designed to sail into minefields and intentionally hit mines to clear a path. Marine Farpam, the MFP, the German landing craft, flat-bottomed and heavily armed. They were crucial for transport and fire support in the Mediterranean and Black Sea campaigns. Flagship, the Floating Battery, converted ships covered in anti-aircraft guns. They were anchored in harbors to provide a dome of flak fire against Allied bomber streams. Finally, the prototypes, the Paper Monsters, H-class battleship, the Plan Z Titans. These designs called for ships larger than the Japanese JMO with massive Twittian guns, a vision of naval dominance that remained only a blueprint. Which of these vessels is your favorite in naval history? Subscribe to Wardex for the next catalog.